Hey, how are you? All right, I got to set stuff up here. Give me just a minute. Yeah, I'm never ready on these things. I'm going to move this down, I think. Yeah, then I get rid of this. How do I do that? Okay, where's this button? Wait for it. I'm behind. Move this down. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. And now I got to get the notes up and running because I got a new thing here. There it is. Okay. So I should be able to see the chat, talk, read notes, walk down the street, and chew bubblegum at all the same time. I think we're ready to go. Okay. We'll get a big speech. I've been working on my polish, is what I've been doing. There's a lot of information to get out, and a lot of it's kind of important because we're going to be screwed if we don't. I was watching Liz over on Diggin' Canuck was it yesterday? Maybe 2 days ago. I don't know what day it is. Uh, and she said Charlie Victor because you can't say the name of that thing that's spreading like wildfire uh, because YouTube demonetizes you. I made like 46 cents on that thing, so I'd like to do a little bit better. All right, so we're gonna call him Charlie Victor instead of coronavirus. Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about here. We got some people showing up. Who's Charlie Victor? That disease thing. I could show you. I could probably show you. Yeah, because I'm sure they have things going on. Let's see. Is that going to work? This thing. I just typed it into Google. Here's the screen, and it says it right up here. I don't know if you can see that. You can probably see that. Yeah, right there. And all the information you need to know, CDC and that sort of thing. Okay. Now I'm going to set my screen up again. Okay, there's home, and there's the sheet. Then I'm going to find the chat for over here. Now, the Kong, that's right, the Kong flu. And then I got to pull up this. Are we there? There it is. Okay, so there's this guy, right? Name's Alan Bartlett. He's probably gone by now. He was old many years ago, but he's got a couple of videos on YouTube. His name's Al Bartlett or Albert Bartlett or Alan Bartlett. And he did a great presentation on exponential growth. And at the end of it, he said, one of the greatest, well, this is to paraphrase him really, one of humanity's greatest downfalls is the inability to understand exponential growth. And I see this all the time. Dude, you get over on Facebook and you got the people say, there's only 100 cases. What are you worried about? It's just the flu. Well, it's not just the flu. What? You're still in the auction, David? Oh my God. I went to bed. I slept like 8 hours. I got up to, use the restroom there. And they're still going on. That is an amazing thing. Okay, well, I'm going to keep on going because they've been on for darn near 12 hours over there. That'll work. I'm a PHL International. I work on the ramp. It's a ghost town. PHL, Philadelphia International Airport, I suspect. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to talk about exponential growth for a little bit here. And I got some pictures. Let's see. Here's the screen. Can we see the screen? There's the screen. Okay, we got pictures. There are some things that grow exponentially, which is kind of neat. Let's see. What's this one? Exponential growth. For example, compound interest, the red line. It starts out slow, right? Maybe you're getting 5% per year on your savings account or some darn thing. And it's real slow at first, but it keeps on compounding. Another 10%, another 10%, another 10%. So you got, $5, then $5.50, then like $6.05, so that the rate of growth grows, right? With simple interest, you measure it's interest times the rate times the time. Whatever the time is, that's your 20%. That's your interest rate. That's a flat line. Whereas compound interest, because each year on year, you're getting interest on the interest, and you get this curve, right? This exponential curve. That's the signature of exponential growth, is this slow start and then a turn and then it just goes through the roof. And we see this in other things. For example, human population growth. Now, a lot of it's been fueled, especially in the past 50 years, by mechanical farming, industrial farming. What do you call them? The fertilizers. The Green Revolution in the 50s really sent it through the roof. But 120 years ago, we barely had 2 billion people on the planet here. Right, about 1.5 billion, and most of our growth has been these last few years. So now it actually doubles. The population doubles about every 13 years or something like that. So 13 years from now, instead of having 7.3 billion people on the planet, we're going to have 14.6 billion, the way it's been growing. Okay, let's see, we got more. We got fire. Now, if you ever set fire in the back room, or if your kids, let me tell you, if your kid is 5 or 6 years old and just has some matches and some paper to play with and accidentally sets a little fire in the back room, look, don't whip them too hard, really. Just let them, put the kid outside and let them play with fire. But, well, anyway, fire is one of those things that grows exponentially. It's actually such a fast rate. You've seen houses, they ignite, they start pouring out smoke, then the whole thing combusts rapidly and burns down to the ground. And this is one of those neat things, of course, that's going to continue to grow as long as there's fuel available. That's all it wants is fuel and oxygen. You keep those in good supply, and the growth is just going to continue and continue. It feeds itself, right? The heat of the fire ignites more fire. All right, then you have some limits, right? We've got the population is the long, flat, dotted line. Okay, lots of things kind of grow, but they also can reduce exponentially, right? As the population grows, we use more natural resources, coal and iron, let's see, timber, all that stuff. We can see some limits to the growth, such as the fire does. Sometimes the pollution will grow to such a point that the population cannot grow further. You have food growth. How much food per capita can you grow? That can increase, especially if you have chemical inputs, chemical fertilizers, that sort of thing. Sometimes you'll hit a limit, and the growth stops and goes into decline. Well, that's kind of what we need to do with Charlie Victor. Let's see. Get rid of the fire. Can you see any of this? I didn't check. Okay, good. That's working. All right, with another one. There was another one that had exponential growth. Smartphones, smartphone users. This is neat. Geez, the guy over there at Apple, Steve Jobs, they came up with that smartphone, a dozen years ago, and it was slow at first, but the price came down because the manufacturing got better, and as the price came down, people started grabbing those phones, and it went up, and it just took off. Really, you sold a few, a couple of million in the first couple of years, and then you're selling a couple of million a month over here on this end. All those smartphones. Okay. Let me kill a couple of these. I got a lot of windows open, but mind you. This is a shot of the 1918 Spanish flu outbreak. That lasted for well over 9 months. Took out a lot of people. That was a troublesome thing. And we'll have some anecdotal evidence to draw from that. So I've got to set up my screen again. Every time you see just the screen, I can't see the chat. Let me catch up over here. Dave Carlisle's here. Montague Bakesy's here. Dollars. Bring back DDT. Well, that's bad luck too. Cancer and stuff. Okay, here we go. I got a whole script to work with. And if I can get this lined up right, we got it made, baby. There, I think this will work. Okay, so we get those things that grow exponentially, like compound interest, or fire, or population. Food spoilage, right? Geez, you got an apple, you get a whole bucket of apples, and you're good for a while, but then you get one bad apple, and it's going to rot the 4 apples it's touching. And each of those apples is touching, 2 or 3 more apples, and then, well, before you know it, that whole barrel is rotted out. The growth on these things, these exponentially growing things, will usually continue until a limit is reach, something which will keep it from growing further. Excuse me. I get to talking, it drives me up. For example, your bank account may be getting compound interest, but what if the account has a limit to the balance? And what if the bank closes down? Fire will go until it's out of fuel or oxygen. Um, Surface area is a neat thing. What if you can only have so many people on the darn planet? There was a guy did the math. If you took everybody on the planet and put him like in Texas, they would fill an area like 200 miles square or some darn thing. But the rest of the planet, you got to use that to grow the food for these 7 billion people. So, geez, what happens when we run out of arable land? We are experiencing some problems with that right now. Soil salinization, some weather patterns have been kind of screwy of late. Bigger storms, longer droughts. What if the food supply, same idea as the fuel, because that's a food supply is fuel for animals, right? It's fuel for bees, for bugs, fuel for fire. So we're going to take a look at linear growth, right? And take a look at exponential growth. There you go. And there's a key difference here, right? Linear growth has a constant rate of growth. For example, every inning in a game, the team that's doing good gets 20 points every single inning, right? Now with exponential growth, you have a growing rate of growth. So effectively you have what's called a doubling time. It's how long does it take for whatever thing you're measuring to double. And the time it takes between each doublings is the same. That's the key difference here. Linear growth, to double the count, you need double the time. With exponential growth, to double the count, you just need the single time. Okay, let's get over and look at some figures, because, dude, I got tons of them here. Let's see. I had a good place to start here. I think it was way down here. This the one? Okay, here you go. We're going to look at exponential growth right here. And this, I'm using these numbers here. Started at 100. We had 100 cases on March 1st. And I'm just going to kind of round it up and call it 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200. Matter of fact, right now, let's see, what we hit today? We're at 3,043 cases in the U.S. right now. And, well, let's see, today's the 15th. We'll hit the 3,200 mark today, which will be double what we had 3 days ago. So we have a doubling time right now going on of 3 days. Every 3 days it doubles in count. It goes from 100 to 200 to 400 to 800 to 1600 to 3200. So in 3 more days, we should cross the 6,400 mark. And I've been doing these updates every time that count doubles. But if I chart this, I'm going to get this. See, it's really low and it just takes off. It's the same shape of curve that you see on population growth, on fire growth, right? If you plot the water hyacinths, an invasive species, they are also an exponential growth factor. Compound interest, same idea. Watch this. Here's linear growth. So exponential growth, to double the count, it takes the same time. This is 3 days. This is 3 days. 3 days. This is actually a little quicker this time around. It only took 2 days. But it was like 2.5, really. Here's 3 days. For linear growth, okay, let's say you got innings. You're playing baseball, you get 20 points. The next inning, you got 40 points. The next inning, 60, 80, 100. Each inning, you get 20 more points. This is linear, okay? So to go from 20 to 40 takes 1 inning. To get from 40 to 80, you need 2 innings. To double that again, you need double the iterations. It goes to 4 innings. To double it again, now you're down here, you got to get to 8 innings, okay? You'll never get from linear growth the sort of expansive escalation as you get on exponential. Okay, watch this. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, I go from 20 to 180. I've increased it by a factor of 9 by the 9 iterations. Over here, I've got 9 iterations, right? But I've gone from 100 to 51,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, no, excuse me, to 25,000. Yeah, this is why exponential growth is so darn big. Each line here is double the previous line. You can hardly see these down here. Okay, so you have an exponential formula where it's y, which is your vertical axis up here. Right, there's your exponential growth. This is going to be y equals x, whatever number you start with, to the power of n. So if you want to double your count, that would be effectively 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. However many times n is involved, it's another times 2 times 2. Right? A linear formula is x times n. 20 times 5 is 100. Up here, if I double it, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I double it 5 times, I haven't gone to 100, as with the linear. I've doubled it 5 times, which is x, in this case 100, to the 5th power, or 2 to the 5th power. And that's the power of this thing. You have 32 times as much going on here. I think I had some more somewhere. Let me look around. Is it on here? No, it might be on this part. I swear I had it. There we go. So you got n is the your number, okay? 0, 1, 2, 3. That's how many times you double up. Now we're going to start at 1, okay? We're going to double it to 2. So 2 to the power of n. 2 to the 1 equals 2. 2 to the 2 equals 4. 2 to the 3rd power, right? Let's say you got a cube. It's 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. You got 8 cubic inches. Double it again, and then it starts really gaining growth. It really starts taking off. You're out here 10 times, you got 100 times the original count. Go another 10 times, you've gone from 1,000 to 1,000,000. This is the sort of growth we're seeing with this awful Charlie Victor virus. Let me look up here. Here's the I got some better numbers is what I did. So these numbers are a little bit different from the numbers on the last page, which is lost. There you go. They're just slightly different. I think they were taken later in the day over here. This is 89 counts, whereas this one is 75. They had a few gains, in between the readings. Okay, but I'm going to start there. If that's 1, from 75, I crossed the 150 line after 3 days. From 150, I crossed the 300 line in 2 days. From 300, I crossed 600 in 3 more days. 700, I crossed let's see, that's going to be 14. I crossed that in 3 more days. We're doubling this thing every 3 days. Well, let's see, we got 3,000 right now. All right, so if I go back 3 days, I probably have half as much. Let's test that theory. 2951, cut it in half, 1,500. 1, 2, 3. That's below 1,500. I cut that in half. 1, 2, 3. 1,300 divided by 2. You see, this thing's doubling up every 3 freaking days. It's going to get out of control real fast. Now let me show you this other thing I discovered earlier today. Where's my funny numbers? I had some funny numbers here. Is this it? No. Is this it? I gotta look around. I got a lot of notes I've made here. Okay. We're going back up to here. So I was looking at these figures, right? 75, 100, 124, 150. This is the figures that we have at the end of the day. How many we have? We got 2951 when I wrote this down, and it's a little higher now. And this is the gain. This is the difference between 75 to 100. We gained on 25 more cases. All right. But watch this because it's kind of interesting. 25, 24. There's a little bit of variance in the small numbers, but as you get bigger and bigger, they start to really get in line. Now watch this one. I've got 124, right? 158. I come over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I go from 158 to 168. My gain today is probably very equal to what we had 5 days ago. This is today, March. Well, okay, it's like 4 hours ago. I took a while to make these notes. The gain we had today was 704. Let's go back 5 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The total number of cases we had 5 days ago, we grew by that many today. All right. Let's see, yesterday we gained by 550. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 days before that, we had as many cases as we grew. Same before that, 435 to 400. There's 307, 318. These numbers are lining up quite nicely. So, well, I took a look. What if I line these up better? Did I do it? I thought I did it somewhere. Here we go. So I copied those figures over here. Let's try to make sense of them. And this is where I figured out the 5-day pattern. And this is consistent with exponential growth, where the gain after a period of time, or during a period of time, is going to be very similar to what you had for a total previously. So here's what my counts are per day. Here's the gain. So I copied this one and moved it over here to this column. And they're lining up real nice. All right, this is the gain. This is my 5-day previous. 100, 100, 100, 100. And then as the numbers grow, they really line up. 163, 158, 200, 221, 307, 318. 400, 400, 5 and change, 5 and change. Wow. And that's typical of exponential growth. So now I can extrapolate. All my numbers up here are factual. This is actual measurements. But what we have below here, below the yellow line, are projections. This number, if you can see the formula, will equal that one, equals C13. This is column C. This is line number 13. That's all I did was carry these numbers over to here, and what happens? If you look in this side, this is the doubling column. How many days before that number, well, let's use this number, before 4,000 becomes 8? 5, 6, 9, okay, 3 days. 3 days. 21 to 49, 3 days. 50,000 to 100 and change, 3 days. 100,000 to 200 and, oh, that's a lot. 3 days. 115 to 260, okay, 230 and 238. That's what it's doing, is doubling every 3 days. What is being done right now, the president has put in these steps to try to start slowing it down. A lot of companies are jumping on the bandwagon too. They're shutting down games. Apple closed all its stores. We've got a lot of towns are closing down schools, for example. I'm going to find the chat again. This comes up here. Wait a minute. Wait for it. There's this thing. Okay, got that. Geez, could you see any of that? Because I'm looking at this now. Screenshot. See, now I'm looking at this. Damn it, you didn't see any of that. Okay, I suck at this. Really, I've got to do better. I get into it, and I don't pay attention to that. I need like 3 monitors now. One for me, one to see what you can see, and one just to play cartoons. Darn it. Okay, let's go back and do that again. Here's the screen. Make sure we can see the damn screen this time, Ken. So there's the notes that we're going to be talking about. Hopefully, if we can get to it. Let's see. And then I got to pull up the data I was just yakking about. Okay. Where are you? Let's see the screen. Show me the screen. There's the screen. Show me the browser. And here's today's counts. There, 3,043 cases right now. All right. I've been tracking the data over here on a couple of sheets since January 20th. Okay. So here are some counts. I changed these. I got another source for the data, so I'm getting actual counts. And this started with 100. Well, I call it 89. I just rounded up to 100 on March 1st, and then I said, okay, that's 100. Here's 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200. And well, looking at the dates, it's doubling every 3 days. All right. Well, we got better data. Where's the better data? Here's the U.S. dailies. Okay, I got too much here. There. So on March 1st, it was 75. Now I went with 89. It was probably a number from later in the day. The next day was 100. So we gained 25. This is the count. I can type that in here. Cases. This is the gain right over here. 25, 24. Seeing the small numbers, they're a little wiggly. There's a lot of fudge in the smaller numbers, but once you start getting into the bigger numbers, they become more accurate. I actually charted these, and we have this. This is the daily new cases, and we have this exponential growth in daily new cases. That's what's going on there. It's pretty fascinating when you start looking at the numbers. On March 6th, we gained by 100. If I go back 5 days, okay, 4 days in this case, there's 100, 100, 100, 124, 117. It's really starting to line up. The next day is a little slower, okay, but 158 cases. 5 days later, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We gained more on March 9 than we had cases in all of March up through March 4th. And it kept on following the same pattern. So 307, 318. This is 396. Let's call it 400. That's 435. 550. 541. The neat thing was today we had 704 cases. And this caught my attention that this is 704 cases. All right, so I took these numbers and lined them up, which is this column. I just copied and pasted. That's the number of cases. This is the gain. So I copied this baby. Let me copy this baby. Come on. I copied that and lined them up over here. And you are pasting data? Yes. And how well do they correlate? This is the actual growth, and this is the 5 days previous counted cases. 100, 100, 100, 124. See, the low numbers are a little bit off, but then they start lining up. 163, 158, 290, 221. Okay, that's a little difference. 307, 318, 400, 435. They're really coming into line. All right. So those numbers I extrapolated. And here, above the yellow line and including the yellow line, these are actual counts. This is data. This is data drawn from a couple of websites. There's that 704 I noticed. So after that yellow line, these gains are the 5 day previous numbers. So this gain in this column is going to be C15, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days previous, March 12, the total number of cases. So now I've got reasonable projections because the numbers are getting big enough that I can get these are looking pretty accurate. And if we follow this out, I've got every 3 days is the doubling time. Here's 21,000 on March 21st. That's 6 days from now. In 6 days, we should have this many cases. 3 days after that, double. 3 days after that, double. 3 days after that, double. Okay, this virus is going to keep on spreading until something causes it to stop spreading. All right, now I promised to show you those formulas, so we're going to find those. Here we go. This is the exponential growth, and the key difference between exponential growth and linear growth. In linear growth, if you want to double the count, here's the count. It takes double the time. And here you can see, let's say you're playing baseball. In the first inning, you get 20 points. All right. To get 40 points, you're going to get 20 points every inning here. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. That's all this is. Whatever the previous number is, plus 20. So if I'm getting 20 points per inning, in one more inning, I should have double the points. But to double that again, from 40 to 80, I need 2 innings. And then from 80 to 160, I need 4 innings. From 160 to 320, I need 8 innings. That is linear growth. And it follows a formula, which is y, which is the vertical axis, right, equals the number, in this case 20, times the number of iterations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gets 100. There's my 100 line. There's 5. 5 times 100. Or no, 5 times 20 equals 100. To double that to 200, I got to get to 10 innings. To double the 200, I've got to get to 20 innings. It's that street baseball is what they use. Okay. Now, in exponential formula, we have an exponent involved here. And whatever if you're doubling, then x equals 2. If you're tripling, then x equals 3. And again, you have this curve, this exponential curve. It starts up real slow and then just takes off, because each successive iteration is twice as much as before. So we have 2 to the n is effectively what we have. And it's exponential. Look at this. Each line here has twice as many as the previous line. This one is 25,000. This one's 12,500. This one's 6,250. These are actual numbers based on this. These are 89, 200, 400, 800, 1,600, 3,200, and then I got 3 more lines involved. I've got 3 more data points that I extrapolated based on these. So all the previous lines here, this is based on data, and this is extrapolation. So we get to see how accurate this extrapolation is. But there you go. Don't forget the formula, right? An exponential formula will have an exponent. A linear formula, well, it's just going to, 2 times 10, 3 times 10, 4 times 10, 5 times 10. Over here, it's 2 to the 5, 2 to the 6, 2 to the 7. That's the power of the exponents. Now I had another one here, and you missed that one too. So we're going to start at 0, right? We're going to double it. No, we're going to start at 0 time, and we're going to start with 1. I'm going to double that number at 2 to the 1. 2 to the 1 to the first power equals 2, right? I'm going to double it again with another n. 2 to the second power equals 4. 2 to the third power, right? If you get a cube, 2 inches on a side is 2 by 2 by 2 equals 8 cubic inches. And you can see it starts slow. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. Before too long, you're talking about some real numbers. We had 100 cases earlier this month on the around the 2nd, and we got 13 days later. 12 days later, we got 4 more doubling times, because it's 3 days per doubling time. 4, so we should be between 2,000 and 4,000 right now. And what are we at? We're at 3,000. Okay, the numbers are holding up. Diseases progress and grow according to the numbers. They don't care about you, your politics, your religion, where you live. All they need, let's see, I've got some stuff here for that. I'll set up the window again. Gosh, I hope you saw that. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna weep. Let's see. There's home. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up. Come on, pull up. There. There. I think we got it. Shouldn't that 3 days? See, exponential growth, the time of the doubling stays constant. You follow me? If I'm going to double every 3 days, in 3 days I got 2. 3 more days, I got 4. 3 more days, I got 8. I got a picture here to show you. This is the way. Let's see here. Where's the screenshot? Can we see this? I can see down to right about here. This is perfect. Okay, I'm going to start with nothing. And, well, you can tell it's nothing because there's nothing here. But I'm going to put in one Charlie Victor, one little Charlie Victor. And you can tell that there's 1 because back here there's none. Okay, this is doubling every 3 days. What does doubling do? That's where a cell divides, right? And 1 cell becomes 2 cells, and 2 cells become 3 cells, and 3 cells become 4 cells. But we're not talking about cell division. We're talking about case counts, where 1 person spreads it to somebody else, and then they spread it to more people, and they spread it to more people, and they spread it to more people. So we're getting this doubling, right? And it gets pretty impressive in a real quick time because each one of these images takes 3 more days. You follow me? And at this point, there's just so darn many, I can't even count them. Let's go back to 1. To 1, there you go. So we have a doubling time involved. There's 1. We double it, it's 2. 2 to the 2nd power, 2 squared equals 2 times 2. Wait a minute. Did I do that right? Okay, I might have messed these up. I started at 0, that's why. Okay, well, no matter. Here, 2 to the 1st power is 2. 2 to the 2nd power, 2 by 2 equals 4. 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. That's 1,024. This is 2,048. And then I ran out of room. Okay, that's what this doubling is all about. All right. But it depends on the time. The time of the doubling is a constant. That's why people have trouble with it. It's nothing to do with a Fibonacci sequence. Totally different thing. Although that is also a growth function. Okay, let me set up my screen again here. No, there's a chat. There's this thing, and here's the notes. Oh, good. All right. These viruses grow because there's nothing to stop it. We have no immunity to this virus. It's a new virus. It's, the novel corona. We haven't been exposed to it before. H1N1, the seasonal flu, that's floating around, and it's been around for what? 11 years. A lot of us have already had the flu, so we can't catch it from somebody who has the flu because we already had the darn thing and we have antibodies. All right? So we can get herd immunity that way. But for this to happen with the coronavirus, you're talking 1/3 of us will need to get sick first. Again, what we're doing is starving the fire of its fuel. Right? Without the fuel, a fire can't grow. Without food, we can't grow. And without us, the virus can't grow. Charlie Victor needs 3 things. He needs hosts without antibodies. That's us. That's you. That's me. We're its fuel. It needs close proximity to other people so it can jump from one host to another. These are your social gatherings, right? Your interaction, handshakes. It needs entry points. So if you have this combination of a host with no immunity, he's close enough to somebody else who also has no immunity, and that somebody else has, a mouth or nose or eyes, and they're exposed, that Charlie Victor can jump from one host to another. This is how it spreads. Now we got to stop Charlie. That's what we need to do. There's a vaccine. Well, there's several in development, but they will be a year out, right? There's no speeding up the vaccine production process. Um, Geez, they might try it, but sometimes these vaccines do more harm than good. They will actually infect people rather than prevent them from being infected. And if it doesn't work, we need to know beforehand. There are antiviral medications on the market. Now, the problem there is they're not always effective against every disease that comes along. They can ease some symptoms, but right now, most medications are produced in China. If the medications aren't produced in China, most of the ingredients used to produce the medications are made in China. Our best weapon are NPIs, and this is a non-pharmaceutical intervention is what this is called. They think Trump was wearing a hat because he was sick and sweating. No, they always have the, when the president gets down to work, they put on the hat. Right? He's going to go out and create jobs. He puts on a hat, gets out there in some industry where they're sparking steel or some darn thing. That's showmanship. He did look rather fatigued. Has he been burning the candle at both ends, or does he need to be tested again? Sometimes that testing isn't really all that effective. It can be incorrect. It can give you false results. If the president of the United States was infected, could you tell people? Would you have to keep that under wraps until it cannot be hidden anymore? There's a whole lot of things the government doesn't tell us, guaranteed. Okay, we have this thing. It's called R0. In England, they call it R0 because they use funny words like that. That's what they do. Okay, this is the base transmission rate of the virus. Now, there's other factors involved. A lot of them are cultural. People go to church every single day, worship several times a day in crowds, with crowds. This can help spread that disease, and your R0, your basic transmission rate, can increase. So effectively, you have these large gatherings of people frequently, several times a day. It's the perfect breeding ground for this, for Charlie Victor. Non-pharmaceutical interventions include finding out who has it, right? So we have to test them. Now, this is what the government's doing right now. The CDC kind of they choked the game a couple of weeks back. The test that they were developing was designed for all coronaviruses, not just this coronavirus. There are others. There's the SARS, the outbreak we had several years ago. There's another one called MERS, MERS. I guess that jumped out of camels or some darn thing. And that killed a bunch of people, but it wasn't as transmissive. Because they designed it for all three, it didn't really work so well. Great, CDC. I have a lot of issues with the way the government is handling this response. Yeah, I'm up early, Joe. Okay, but the next thing you have to do, once you find out who has it, because you're testing, and you're testing a lot of people, you got to find out who they've been around. Now it's called contact tracing. Now over in UK, they've actually given up on contact tracing, and they've moved up to mitigation just to try to slow it down. Well, you got to isolate the known cases. You have to isolate the suspected and potential cases. So once you find a case, right, Charlie Victor is sick. Who has Charlie Victor been in contact with in the past 7 to 10 days? Because the victim needs to be isolated. Anybody he's been around needs to be isolated. If he's been on a bus with 50 other people, you're going to find all those 50 other people and isolate them as well. Also going on in the UK, right? Let's say dad comes home, he's sick. Well, he's got to stay home. He's isolated, but the rest of the family is not limited in this. I was watching Dr. John Campbell has a series of great videos out. Well, if you're going to isolate a person who's sick, you'd have to isolate everyone they live with as well. Really, nobody should leave that building. Nobody should leave that house. You have to sanitize surfaces. Now this gets into it. You know, you go out, you get all that toilet paper, you fight with a guy at Walmart to get it. He's coughing. Maybe you don't catch the disease from him, but if he's got the disease and coughs on your toilet paper that you punch him in the face to get, you just brought that toilet paper into your home. And if there's virus on that surface, you'd need to sanitize that. Look, bleach really is the most effective and cost-effective manner to sanitize anything. A gallon of water with about 2 tablespoons of bleach will sanitize all kinds of stuff. And then you have to keep this keep the virus out of people, right? Remember how I said you got that the entry points? You have PPE, which is personal protective equipment. I can write it right here. Personal, that's for you. Protective, and we'll put this in there because it's a little bit of everything. There are gloves, goggles, respirators. Okay, this disease, this virus spreads through the air. Not only do you cough and you got spittle and you cough on somebody and you spit in their eye, but also just breathing out these viruses can waft through the air. Now, I think a one-piece biosuit with an independent ventilator might be a little bit excessive. I don't think we're going to equip a population of 250 to 300 million people with one-piece biosuits. Besides which, after about 30 minutes, it's so damn hot in there you can't stand it. Okay, non-pharmaceutical interventions should also include this right here, and this is in the wrong section. Let me cut that out and paste it up here. There we go. So another non-pharmaceutical intervention, as well as sanitizing surfaces, wash your hands. Okay, really, soap is great. If you don't have access to soap and water so you can give them a good sudsy wash, then your hand sanitizer can be the next best alternative. But you got a whole giant section of the population who's running out buying a hand sanitizer. Soap is cost effective and will destroy the lipid cell structure. Okay, let's see. So PPE, yeah. Is N95 strong enough? Is it fine enough to prevent these things from getting through? If it is so darn small, it's only got like 40 or 46 chromosomes or 49 or DNA, RNA strands. It's a pretty small virus. Is that N95 good enough? If it isn't, we're just fooling ourselves. Okay, we can expect more restrictions are on the way. All right, I've shown you the way this thing doubles. Let me get back to that for just a moment. Let's see, here's the screen. Where are you? Is this the one I want? That's US Daily. Here it is. This is the one no, that's not what I want. Where'd it go? Oh, it's over there on the left. Let me click on a few hundred things here. Bear with me. Here we go. Let's see. I wanted to talk about the more restrictions coming. There's that. There's this. Can you see it? You sure can. Here's what's going on. If we continue doubling this virus every 3 days from 150 to 300 to more than double, 704. That'd be 636. Okay, 700, close enough. Double that to 1700, close enough. 17 to 34, 3900. This is the doubling. The time is the same. We've got to use these non-pharmaceutical interventions to slow down this rate of growth. Remember how I said if the time is the same, the number of iterations is what makes this thing big. Watch this. We're on March 1st, and if I double every 3 days, let's continue this a little while. There's 4,000, 9,000, 21 on March 21st. That's 6 days from now. Let's see, double that, 50,000. They start getting into some big numbers. Look at this, 115,000. If I go forward 5 days and grow by that amount, this is why it gets so out of hand so darn fast. The rate of growth keeps on growing. Okay, but right around here, Uh, you got a million patients or a million cases. We've only got, where are you here? Nope, not that one. We've only got in the U.S. 1 million beds. We got a million hospital beds. We could probably set up some tents and get another million hospital beds. But we start to get to that limit. We've only got so many doctors and nurses. Now, I was talking with a nurse, and a typical ward, a critical care ward, would have a respiratory nurse, a general nurse, and a doctor. And this would be the crew that could treat typically 10 patients. Now, they could treat 20 patients simultaneously, but they'd be working like dogs. Seriously, it would be more, as much or more as could be handled. So we can't really get to more than a couple million hospital beds. Now you got to realize also, most of these beds are already full with people who are sick with, let's see, the regular flu. They have strokes, heart attacks, car crashes, um, troublesome pregnancies, brain tumors, cancer, we did the heart attack thing, kidney dialysis, broken legs. A lot of these beds are already full, so we only have about 200,000 at any given time to work with, right? Uh, they're just not investing in it. Now, here's a critical number here. These are great numbers to keep in mind. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger. 80% of the cases are going to be mild, right? It won't be too bad. You'll be fine. Most of the people are going to come through this and be happy as can be in a couple of weeks. It'll suck. Headache, uh, bone aches, muscle aches, toenail aches, tooth aches. It's going to hurt. You're sore, you're achy, tired as all hell. You run a fever, you have a dry cough. Okay. Now, the other 20%, three-quarters of those are going to be severe. They're going to need some medical attention. And there's going to be 5% of these people, 5% out of 100, that are going to need critical care, intensive care. And if they don't get the medical care they need, they probably will end up in the dead column. So if we have 200,000 beds, well, the mild cases, they're going to be sent home. Go home, self-isolate, drink water, get some of that flat ginger ale they like to give people. Eat some chicken soup. There's nothing wrong with chicken soup. These people are going to recover. They'll be okay. But these folks need help. They're having trouble breathing, pneumonia, extreme fevers. Okay, so how many people would it take to fill up those 200,000 beds? Let's see. Where's the number? Okay, I got to move it left. So if you got 1 million people sick, about 200,000 of those people would need medical care. And if they don't get it, we're going to start seeing the death rate climb dramatically. Once you fill up the hospitals, that's the key thing right there. So somewhere around here, we're in trouble because the hospitals are full. And we haven't even started to double up yet. We're still doubling every 3 days. Okay, so I took this one over here. This is the 5% critical. All right, that's the blue column. And over here is the 21-day sum. Because if you're critical, the numbers are saying that after, once you hit that critical stage, you're probably spending an average of 21 days in the hospital. So once we start getting into these bigger numbers, 1 million, and if we keep growing every 3 days, we'll be there in 2 weeks and a half. Okay, in 21 days, this would result in 10,000 people sick, needing critical care, but it keeps on growing because tomorrow there's another 355,000 people getting sick. 3,000 of them are going to need critical care. Now you got 13,000 beds are full. So then we come up to this number here, which is, check this out, a week later. You get every critical care bed is full. We don't have the machinery. We don't have the capacity to treat these people. If we get to this level, right, 5 to 10 million, People are going to start they don't have a chance. Dude, we can't give them more care. And the people that are in these beds are going to stay there for 3 weeks. You know, somebody dies so that somebody else can get a bed and get some care. And even then, now you're a month and a half out. You're starting to wear down the staff. Let me have some of this juice here. There we go. Now, if this keeps up, this doubling time every 3 days, right? Because we got nothing to stop it. We got no antivirals that are effective. We don't have a vaccine. All we have is a population that makes a perfect food for these things. They get into our cells and they use them as a factory to make more of themselves. That is what a virus does. They're self-replicating little thingies. We keep doubling this every 3 days. Let's see, how many people we have in the United States? We don't have this many. We have around this many. April 24th, we're full. Just about every person in the U.S. is affected, has been sick, is sick, are definitely exposed. Let's count these up. How many doubling times are we talking about? We are here. The total, starting with a 75 over here, says 18 doubling times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. After 12 doubling times, we're getting into those danger hospital numbers. 13, 14, 15. Now we got 4 million cases a day, people getting sick. You got 40,000 people that are critical. And what number is that? 16, 17, 18. There's 18 doubling times. Now, mind you, we've already used 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 14 more doubling times, and we're in for it. We would lose tens of thousands of people a day. So if we could stretch this out, right? If we could use these non-pharmaceutical interventions, where's that word right here? If we could use these effectively, restrict and quarantine and isolate and sanitize and use the PPE, then we have a chance of slowing it down, right? The big trick is keeping it under the threshold at which the hospitals are overwhelmed. Because once they're overwhelmed, the death rate goes up dramatically. Some real quick numbers for you. Okay, this is the low estimate down here. Whoops, come back. This is the high estimate up here. Okay, the low estimate, we figure 30% of the people are going to get sick. Now, if that's slow enough, that'll work out that, the folks that do recover are going to come out and, well, they'll be immune. So, one fellow coughs on another one, but the one he just coughed on has already had the disease. He's not going to catch it. So this will help slow down the transmission rate. AR is called attack rate. You figure 30% of the people will probably be exposed in the U.S. and get the disease. Well, we're looking at 97 million cases. That's what we're looking at. That's the U.S. population. Of those 97 million cases, 19 million will be severe. Well, if we have 1 million beds, where do you put the other 18 million people that will die if they don't get medical help? This is why we have to slow this thing down. We have to keep that curve, keep the peak of the infection down so the hospitals can handle it, because when the hospitals get too full, that's it. Everybody after that dies. They take up a bed and somebody has a heart attack. The guy with a heart attack isn't going to get the treatment he needs. Let's go back over here. Globally, this is the globe. We could have, with a low attack rate of 30%, we could have 2 billion people sick this year, which is 438 severe cases. And using a case fatality rate of 1%, and that's the best figure I've got so far. And we're looking at 21 million people die. Now, in a more extreme case, you could see an attack rate of 70%. And what that does to the deaths is you don't want to see what the top number is. This starts to get really scary. Now, mind you, most of the people are going to come out the other end. You got a survival rate that's going to be, 97, 98%. Most of the people are going to survive. But you're going to have some changes in the world if you lose 5 million people in the United States. Africa could be higher with an attack rate of 85% because they get a lot of close communities. And also their medical system in most of the African nations it's the pits. Egypt does okay. I understand South Africa does okay, but Djibouti, Ethiopia, some of these nations have a miserable medical system. Okay, well, that's what's going on there. What can we expect here? Worst case, maybe 5 to 10 million in the U.S. A good case, if we can keep the numbers down, if we can keep it below 1 million long enough so that the herd starts to build up some immunity, they get better, they get well, and they've got immunity, then we have a chance. But we're not going to do it if we're doubling up every 3 days. Just can't do it. So we need these non-pharmaceutical interventions. I'm going to get back. There's the chat, and there's my little notes. And where to go? There you go. There's this, and there's home. All right, let me catch up on a little bit of chat here. Hi, Ken. You're up early too. I sure am. We're waiting on the tally now. Ooh, did you break 5? I'd be curious to know what that is. Joe says, what state are you in? I'm in New York. Who has the most cases so far? Look, it's not a competition. It's either New York or Washington State right now. They have the biggest case counts. I'm in Florida. I don't know. I think we're at 16 or something, or 20 or 30. We could actually look. Here is the screen. And I'm going to go over to Johns Hopkins website. Here it is. And we'll zoom in. Let's see. There's Australia. Here's Western Australia. Wait a minute. There it is. United States, right there. New York, you got 613 cases, 2 deaths so far. I'm in Florida. 76 cases, 3 deaths. And Washington's pretty busy up here. You got 642 with 40 deaths. That was one of the first places that it started up in America. So you're just barely behind Washington State. Yep. Let's see. U.S. 2952 at last count. What are we at now? Let's see. Now the count is ticking up every few hours. They update this and the count is higher. How about this one? Reload. 3045. That reloaded by. We got 2 extra cases in the past hour. That's getting scary. But when we get into the bigger numbers, when we start getting 10,000 cases a day, which we'll see in 10 days, right? Then the uptick would be, every couple of minutes is another case, another case, another case. This would be 4 cases per minute, right? Up here, it's a case every second. That's the infectious rate of this thing, and this is why I stress exponential growth as being the enemy. We have to cut this doubling time down and stretch this out. Now I did this chart over here, right? Started at 100, 200, 400, real simple, just binary doubling, right? And we're following this pattern real sharp. We actually had a 2-day instead of 3. And I'm able to change this number at the top to say 8 days. If we were running 8 days in between, there we go, it would be less. And we would have the hospitals would be full around mid-June. Huh. Okay, I changed it to 12 days. You're stretching that out. The hospitals don't fill up until early August. Okay, so over here, this section, I went through this whole darn thing, and here's 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. And I went with 1% of the population. And these are the dates at which we will hit 1% of the population. Okay, it's real simple too. 8, let's see, 100, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Keep on counting that up till you get to 3.2 million. And this is 16 doubling times. All right, we just have to double that 16 times. How many days in between doubling times will determine the date we reach that. So we want that T2, we want the doubling time to be just as big as possible. Europe, well, let me fix this. Europe is running 4 to 6 days. A lot of these countries are okay. Italy is closer to 2 to 3, right? China has slowed right down. They're not really growing many cases. Let's see, France is probably 3 to 4 days. And we, right now, are 2 to 3. So this is 3 weeks out, people. At 8%, now you're getting more cases than we can possibly handle, and it's fully out of control. That's going to be 26 million cases. Now, if we get a 3-day doubling time, which we're showing now, we'll hit that in 5 weeks, April 24th. A peak where I take the a 32% attack rate. If we peak at 100 million people sick with the disease, that's the end of April. That's a month and a half. Right now we got 3,000 cases. We're going to double it and double it and double it. Every 3 days we get twice as many more. And the end of next month, we got so many cases. Things get strange real fast. But most of the people who get sick are going to get sick later on. Okay, I'm going to get some more juice here because my throat is a little dry. Let's see. Find the chat. Then find the scene. There's home. Yeah, let me get a little juice. So we'll take a 5-minute intermission here. There you go. It wasn't 5 minutes after all. $6,871 was raised for cancer. That is that's YouTube history in the making right there. Oh, Joe says, what's your estimated time you think we kick this in the butt? 3 months? We look to history for that. Now, I got some pictures here. We look to history. Here's the screen. Can we see it? Yeah. 1918, we had a Spanish flu come through. It may have started in the U.S. in 1918. A lot of people got sick. But you had the end of the war, 1919, and all the troops came home. Now, you had a lot of trouble in 1918 in the war, and Woodrow Wilson had no choice but to send over reinforcements because there were so darn many people sick in France. They had to have reinforcements, and sure enough, they sent the flu right on over. At the end of the war, everybody went home. In a very short period of time, they took the disease with them, and this went around the world quick. But it lasted a little while. It took 9 months for this thing to settle down. However, people still went to work. They used PPE, surgical masks, right? They still delivered the mail. The cops still did their thing. Again, PPE. This looks like a British police here. But this traveled around the world. In the U.S., it killed more people uh, in 9 months than all the wars of the last century, right? More people died from the flu in 1918 and 1919 than World War I, World War II, Vietnam, the Gulf War combined. And instead of being spread over several years, like the wars, uh, 9 months. But I had a graph somewhere. Let's see, 1918, go back, 1918, pandemic. Let's see, duration. Let's look at this one. I can get you a pretty quick graph here, images. This will show you the wave form. There, that. Let's see if I can open this up in another tab. Okay, oh, it's Wikipedia. Let's find the graph. Here it is. So it came in 3 waves. The early wave in 629, July. Started out, some people got sick, not too many, not too bad, but it lingered. And here it just spread around. When the conditions were right for that virus to spread, it did just that, and a whole lot of people. This is the death rate. This is not the how many contracted the disease. This is how many deaths per 1,000 people. And it went on until almost, let's see, 629, 1918, for something, January, February, March, April, almost a full year here, but 3 distinct waves. A year? Well, they tell the people, you know, don't send your kids to school for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Ain't gonna be no 2 weeks. Your kids are out of school until further notice. You may not want to hear that, but this is what's going to happen. Let's get into this here. Where's my notes? Bring this up. Okay, let's see. There. We have more restrictions are coming. Guaranteed. Look around at what the other nations are doing, and this is what we need to do. Everybody, you, me, them, everybody needs to be in the same boat if we're going to control and contain this thing. And if it gets away from us, millions of people are going to die. We're going to have more restrictions. Over in the UK, according to Dr. John, they're isolating the sick in their home, but the rest of the family can move around freely. This does not jive with World Health Organization, which suggests that you should, you know, take the entire family and isolate them. So, you know, just leave them home. Everybody stay home. It makes no sense for dad to be sick and the kids go to school because they're taking it from dad and spreading it. That doesn't make sense. You'd have to home isolate the entire family where one of the people is ill. And then you'd have to add some enforcement to that somehow. What do you, tattoo their forehead? I don't have that one figured out. So how do you tell the difference between somebody who's sick but not showing symptoms and somebody who's not? Well, you can check their temperature, but this disease spreads without symptoms. You can get the disease, it's in your body, it's growing, you're breathing out millions of virus particles, and you feel just fine. You don't know you're sick. And that's what makes this one so darn insidious. People aren't going to stay home if they feel good, man. They're going to go to Walmart. They're going to go to the movies. They're going to go to a concert. They're going to go to the river, right? Take the boat out, play poker with their buddies. You have to expand the testing. I guess the new rules the CDC and the Trump plan have, they got a recipe. You got to click on the website to see if you qualify for testing. And I guess you have to show symptoms. But if you're asymptomatic, you're spreading and you're not being tested. That's going to screw the pooch. Unless we tighten that up, we can't tell who's sick, who's not sick, who's got the disease and not showing symptoms and walking around happy as can be, unknowingly infecting others. We would have to limit mobility, right? Because we can't tell who's sick and who isn't, who's carrying the disease and spreading it and who isn't, when most of the people feel fine for several days. We would have to limit mobility. And if you get out of the house, you would have to have required PPE, at least a respirator, perhaps gloves, perhaps goggles. Respirator, have you even got one? Billions are being made, supposedly, let me get this right, in China. Some things in the world don't make sense to anybody. Uh, the kids would have to stay at home. You can't send them to school after 2 weeks because, as I've shown you, this virus can go on for many months, for 9 months to a year. Your kids ain't going to school. They lost a year of school. They'll be staying at home, studying and taking tests online. They'll do some homeschooling. But what if you got to walk the dog? Right? I know plenty of people. They don't have much of a backyard. They got 4 dogs. You got them. You see them in New York City all the time, right? One guy walking 30 dogs for people who live in penthouses. What if you got to walk the dog? Is that going to limit your mobility? We're going to see closures. Any place people gather socially, schools in particular, universities. You're in a confined room for an hour at a time, then you switch, go to another room with more different people, and it's an ideal breeding ground. As I showed you before, this disease needs, you ready? Needs hosts without antibodies, close proximity to other people, and entry points. So these places are perfect. Schools, church, restaurants. You open your mouth to eat that delightful whatever it is that just served you, with 200 other people in the restaurant. You're breathing it in. You don't have a mask on if you're dining. Bars, same thing. Drinking, dining, football games. You've seen a lot of these already shut down. Soccer, NBA closed their whole season. They said no more. Theater, movie theaters. You're gonna eat popcorn at a movie theater. Concerts. How about the beach? Would that be curtailed? Would they have to stop? Close the beaches. Jesus, good fresh air, but is a social opportunity. How about political rallies? This will test the resolve of our leadership, honestly. Politics and viruses don't mesh. You get these rallies with tens of thousands of people at some of them. It is an ideal breeding ground. You'd have to shut those down. What does that do for the American political system? Does it offer an advantage to one party or another? Everything from federal level positions to town selectmen. People gather in groups for this. Okay, we have to limit people in supply areas. We still have to get out to get supplies. Now, it looks like this virus task force is going to rely heavily on Walmart and their distribution system. But you can't have 500 people in Walmart at the same time, or 1,000 people in Walmart at the same time. You'd also probably want to ration some things. Who needs 400 rolls of toilet paper, for Christ's sakes? What about odd, even days? That's been done before. Ration booklets, do we go with that? There's Geir. Norway is closing and prohibiting. The Directorate of Health has decided to ban and close cultural events, sporting events, organized sports activities, indoors and outdoors. This is what you must do. Let me take a look at Norway real quick here. How they doing? Wow, I totally just shut that window down. Let's see, reopen. Oops. Let's go over and see how Norway is doing. Here's the screen. I get over here. They're up here. Norway. He is so far up north. There you go. You've got 1,000 cases in Norway. 3 deaths. That's fortunate. Yeah, but I believe this also includes Spitsbergen or Svalbard, one of these other places up here. There's a couple cases in Svalbard. Yep. You got to. You'd have to. Yeah, you're in the 1,000 club now, though. We can expect to see some growth. We got to keep this thing down. Let me find my way home again here. There's the notes. There's the home. There we go. More, says Geir, all establishments in the hospitality industry, with the exception of serving places where food is served, i.e. canteens and eateries. which can facilitate visitors at least 1 meter distance. Food should not be served as a buffet. Oh man, that's my favorite. I like those Chinese buffets. Huh. The hospitality industry includes restaurants, bars, pubs, nightlife, gyms, sure. Companies that provide hairdressing services, skincare, massage, and body care, right? Close contact. This has to stop. Tattoos, piercings, swimming pools, water parks. You got water parks up there? Man, I suspect they'd be nice and warm in the winter months. Yeah, you'd have to limit these things. Some businesses will close. Apple shut down all its stores in the U.S., but we still need some things. We still have to have groceries, access to meds. How about maintenance service? Your air conditioner croaks and you live in Arizona, or your heater breaks and you live in Alaska. You still have to get fuel so you can get your groceries and your meds, especially if you're limited to Walmart, and that's 35 miles away. We can expect disruptions, is what's going on. Let's see, I had that list. Here you go. Personal services. We can expect these to shut down. Hair, nails, tanning salons, fun things to do because you have fun with other people, entertainment, movies, pizza shops, you know. If they're limiting it to at least 1 meter distance, look, this virus transmits as an aerosol, not as a particulate. You can cough and, you know, throw some spittle out, but you can also transmit the disease just by breathing out. It wafts directly through the air as an aerosolized particle. It doesn't need the water droplet. Now, the 1 meter rule works if it's a water droplet, right? It comes out and lands. It goes ballistic. It's going to be pulled down because of the mass of the water. But these transmit without those droplets. So, person can be 30 feet across the room and catch it from you. A lot of these restaurants have a ventilation system, right? You got the heat. They're cooking all the food. They'll have a ventilation system that will draw uh, that heat and send it out the ceiling, send it out a vent hood. Uh, so there's always this area of lower pressure going from the dining room into the kitchen. It's kind of neat, but I think the staff would need to have some protection if they're going to keep these things open. Okay, we can expect vacations where everybody goes to Disneyland. It's not going to happen. Uh, we can probably expect travel to be subdued. Going over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house, it's not going to be possible. They're going to have to shut this down. You're going to have people who are sick. You're going to have people who have no job temporarily, right? Perhaps their business closed. Maybe they worked at a restaurant and you can't have it open, or they worked at a bar or a tanning salon or a body massage or haircuts where you're in close contact with people. This is entirely possible. Some of these businesses will have to stay open, and they'll need the personal protective equipment. I told my wife she better stop wasting toilet paper. Yeah, well, when you run out of toilet paper, you have to go to the store and get more. Now, let me give you this one. Let me give you, oh, that's the wrong button. Let me explain why we need to stock up. We're going to go back to the screen. I can see the screen. Good. Okay. And was it the daily? No, the utility. We'll go back to this number, this giant column. Can we see this? Yeah. So here's the number of cases, right? Remember, at each doubling time, every 3 days currently, we get twice as many cases. We're at 3,000 now. 3 days ago, we had half that. 3 days before, half that. Every doubling time, as you get more and more cases, if you can still get out to the store and you have the proper PPE, you have gloves, you got a dust mask, an N95 respirator, you got goggles, you can still get to the store. But every week, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There you go. Each week, if you went once a week, you've got more exposure opportunity. Right now, maybe you got 20,000 cases out there. A lot of these people are walking around, they don't have symptoms. But in a week, you're going to have 100,000. A week after that, you got 800,000 people walking around. Towards the end, as these doubling times really start to kick in, when you have 10, 15, 20, 30 million people infected, this is the danger time. This is where the spread explodes. This is how you get 3 million new cases per day, because you get a lot of people walking around. They don't know they have it. Maybe they have the respirators. Let me grab one real quick. Let me show you this. I'll take one out. This is a standard N95 particulate respirator. Okay, let's see. Here's home. Nope, face view. And you have this thing in the middle, right? It's a beautiful thing. Remember, you put it on your face, you want to squeeze this so it forms around your nose. This is a valve, right? When I exhale and this is on my face, this valve is going to pop open and release my exhale, right? And what this does is let all that humidity out. If you don't have the vent, the unvented respirators, you can probably stand those on your face for half an hour to an hour, depending on how much physical activity you have, how much heavy lifting you're doing, because just breathing out, the humidity in your breath is going to cover this thing. It's going to coat it. Dude, it's going to be dripping, and you can't draw air through it. So that respirator valve, that's the key to the whole operation right there. Gosh, without that, you're limited. Now you can take it off, you can let it dry out, you can reuse it, but if I am breathing out and these particles are able to get through that vent, I'm spreading it when I go to the store if I have the disease. And I might not know I have the disease. I'm still, even though I'm wearing this protection, this protects me. It doesn't protect you. So I breathe, I'm sick, you have it on your hair, on your clothes, on your respirator, right? You've got it on your gloves, on your hands, on your dog food, on your toilet paper, on your cabbage. Everything in the store that I walk by, all I'm doing is shedding virus because I'm able to breathe it out. Okay. Once we get a large enough population that's infected, stay home. The longer you wait before you get out, with each passing week, you've got a greater and greater and greater chance. So how long do you prepare for? Most people have, well, half the people have about $500 in their checking account to pay their bills and buy groceries. They can't afford to stock up a year's supply of groceries. Okay, I need to take a moment here. I've got to stir the beans, okay? I'll be back. There we go. grab this while I was up. This is also handy. As the disease progresses and more cases come to bear, we're going to have a lot of people who are walking around and they don't know they have it. Maybe they have proper protective equipment, N95 respirators. They're still transmitting that virus. If you don't have the equipment, don't leave the house. Right now, we got a couple of weeks before the numbers really start to climb. But a month from now, it's going to be a lot. We can easily start approaching the 1 or 2 million case level. Another week after that, 10 times as many. The next 2-3 months are going to be tough. But let's say you walk around, you get to Walmart, you're able to get out of the house, you get a permit or a pass. It's your day. You get some supplies, you bring it home. Okay, your hair, your clothes, your goggles, your respirator could potentially harbor this virus. Now, the virus can last on surfaces for several days, depending on the surface. A couple, 3 days is kind of a lot, but there have been testing done, and up to 9 days is possible. So if you need a respirator every 3 days, you use it, you take it off, you put it back on in 3 days. Are you going to get the virus from the respirator by grabbing it to put it on your face? You'd want to put that away for 9 or 10 days. Real simple. Keep it away from the kids. Small kids would love to play with such a thing. Right? Seal it away. Leave it in your car. Leave it where the kids can't get it, because it would break my heart to see, you just went to the store, you took this off, you put it away, and you look and there's a 4-year-old playing with it. And it's bad luck. How you take this off is an interesting thing. You can't touch the front with your hands because, well, if you do take it off, now you're exposed, right? Once you take it off, if it moves, are you shedding virus, 6 inches from your face? I'd want to strip off my shirt. I wouldn't want to have a pullover shirt if this is on my head. There we go. There we go. Squeeze it up here so it fits your nose. Blow a couple of times to see if any air gaps, right? Feel around. Is it really windy over here? Okay. If you have glasses, sometimes they'll fog up, which means you're not sealed properly here. Squeeze it again. But if I'm going to grab it like this, I've got the virus on my hands, potentially. Okay, I'm going to take it from the back. Take off the lower section. I'm going to take off the upper section. I'm going to hold my breath. Holding my breath, I'm going to place that in the bag and get away from the area where I just took this off. So I'm not taking this off inside the house. Okay. Once this is sealed up and I'm several feet away from where I took it off, then I can breathe. But I want to start wiping down immediately with disinfectant, with bleach water. Jump in the hot tub if you need to. If you got one, disinfecting your clothes would be prudent. There people are shaving their heads. I really don't have that problem there. I don't have a lot of hair. But if you have a swimming pool or hot tub, that chlorine will kill it right quick. Fully emerge or submerge, I think is the word. And with your clothes on. And then strip them off and launder them as usual. Laundry detergent will destroy the virus. Chlorine in the swimming pool will destroy the virus. If you have a bromine-based system, it'll destroy the virus. Kind of handy, but you want to disinfect yourself completely, preserve your equipment, and then you got to deal with the supplies you just picked up. All right, do you put your respirator back on? Do you leave your respirator on while you wipe down all these items you just picked up? Some of these items you might just leave out in the garage or on the porch for a few days and let the 10-day waiting period go by before you start touching those packages unprotected. But all of this will need to be considered to reduce your risk of exposure. But we'll have to get out. There's going to be times if this thing spreads the way the numbers suggest, uh, once it gets really bad, we're into the multi-million people infected. We are all at risk, and this thing spreads quickly. We need to know this stuff. Okay, I'm going to get back to chat. There it is. And I've got this lined up. And let's see, there's the home. And my notes are in place. We can see it good. Now I'm going to catch up on the chat. Better make that last bank box run. Yeah, people are getting, there are people out there getting rolled coin. So they have something to do, stuck at home for, for many, many weeks. If you are picking up bank boxes, if there's a case known in your town, you might consider picking them up with gloved hands. Not, touching them with your bare hands and letting them sit for a week and a half at the very least before you start opening them up. Now, the pennies and the rolls inside are probably okay. It's the surface of the box that's the issue. But, at 10 days, you probably have pretty good stuff after that. You're probably at a really low risk of infection. Go 2 weeks if you want to, but 9 days is the maximum test that has resulted in a surface of virus detection. Nobody's saying anything about closing casinos. Casinos should be closed, all of them, every last one of them. I hate to see it. People have a lot of fun. Vegas, going to be a ghost town. Atlantic City, forget it. Cruise ships, park them, baby. Montag says, I load bags at a major airliner. I went loading 300 bags of flight to just 35. Yeah, we can see that. Long distance travel, it's the ideal breeding ground. They don't have air sanitizing systems on airplanes. You're in a tube with 347 other people for 8 hours. Of course, it's a breeding ground. Why do you think that the disease is spread across the world so quickly? Sent says, starting Monday, I'll be screening people in my work. He's at a hospital, so you'll probably be doing temperature check. Well, it's a great idea. You'll catch the people that are showing a fever, but you don't catch the people who are asymptomatic. And you're going to be in contact with everybody walking into that hospital. Patients, doctors, nurses. Some of these folks may be infected, may be transmitting the virus, but we got no way to know. Montag says, this might be a dumb question, but I guess slow down on coin roll hunting. No, give it all you got, man. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. If you're going to be at home most of the time, all your free time, if you're not working, if you are working, you should have some free time. But if you have a whole bunch of free time and you can't go to the arcade or to the beach or to the bar, to the restaurant, or watch a movie or pick up a show, what can you do at home that works? So coin roll hunting is a great way to fill that time. Spend some time with the kids. Teach them. Learn. Man, you got 9 months ahead of you, maybe a year. Let's study up and get this all nailed down. Gear says, the Charlie Victor can survive 3 hours in the air. That's why the virus is relatively contagious, says UIB, University of IB. I don't know where that is. I think that's the first mention I've heard about how long it survives in the air. So you go into a room, you don't feel sick, you have no fever, but you're transmitting the virus just by breathing, right? You take a test alone, breathing in this room for 3 hours. You walk out of there, and then somebody walks in 3 hours later, and they can catch it from you with 3 hours of an empty room. Yeah, I can see that being possible. These things are lofting around in the air. Viruses are tiny, man. They're microscopic. The problem with being in there is they start to dry up and become less viable over time. If you have ultraviolet lights, I suspect that can contribute to destroying them. They do thrive in a human body. Shreveport is 250 people at each casino. Is that how many people are working at those casinos? I know they got some casinos like in Gulfport, other places along the coast, and Mississippi and Alabama. Yes, probably the best time to read and study and search what you have. Yeah, it takes me about a month to go through a box of pennies, but I got a lot going on. How many pennies should you have? Dude, you've got all the time in the world to go through every single coin. Even if you don't know what you're hunting for, at least learn to identify what's different. This one is different. Set it aside. What is the test? Who do they test you by taking your blood? Swab. A swab. You've been there. You ever have the test? Start. Let's see. Screen, home, that one. A swab. A Q-tip. Okay, they got longer Q-tips, probably better than these. I stick these in my ears because I got ear troubles. They're going to swab the inside of your mouth. They're testing the epithelial layers of your skin. Oh, I don't do that. It's no worse than sucking on a lot of lollipop. And then they're going to take one and shove it like into your brain. Now they're going to stick it up your nose. They need to get about that far in. It might make you sneeze. Okay, but sinus, so your nasal passages, and the epithelial cells. It's a swab, a cotton Q-tip. Probably a bigger cotton Q-tip than you'd get at, Walmart or something. Same kind of thing as the flu as far as the test. Now they'll take the swabs, they'll put them inside a special package, right? Write your name on it, change their gloves. And you can do all this without leaving the car. You don't have to get up out of your car. Just open your mouth. They go like this. They say, okay, good. We'll let you know. Give us your phone number. You might fill out a form first. On one side of the tent, you pick up the form. On the other side, you swab. But they're setting up testing centers at Walmarts, that's a pretty good spot for it, really. They're giving up some space. They're not going to use so many parking spots if the people aren't going to Walmart all at the same time. Good distribution, so you can send the test kits, the supplies, the PPE to the distribution system and get it to where it needs to be. They're opening them up in the places that they need it most. Right now, I guess Westchester, New York will be one of the first places to open up. I'm sure they'll open some up in Washington State. And there's a website, I don't have it yet. I don't know what it is, probably like charlievictor.gov or some darn thing, where you answer a questionnaire to see if you should be tested. Yeah, and I have a sinking suspicion that it's going to be, do you have a fever? Which means if you don't have a fever, do you not qualify? Because a lot of people are asymptomatic. They don't have a fever or a cough or muscle aches or any symptoms. But if you were in close proximity to someone who is ill, that would be a red flag, and you should be tested. And if you fail the test, if you prove positive, start with self-isolation, right? And there'll be another questionnaire for at what point do you go to the doctor? And it's probably because you're having, serious difficulty breathing. And go from there. But 80% of us are going to have, a mild or heavy cold, effectively. We'll have body aches. It won't be unlike the flu, but the other 20%, they're going to have a hard time with it. Okay, we get back to my notes. Okay, because I've talked up most of them. Let's see, here's the home. Is that what I want? Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's scroll up a little bit. Okay, so we have more restrictions coming, right? They'll probably isolate the sick in their home until or unless they show serious issues. But they should also isolate the rest of the family with them. And, well, the only way to enforce it is if you leave the house and you don't have PPE, they send you back home. And some countries, if you don't have an N95 respirator, for example, they will fine you. And if they have to, they will pick you up and put you in a box and hide the key or some darn thing. We're going to have expanded testing. We will probably see limited mobility. We're not going to be going to all these places we like to go to. School, church, restaurants, bars, Go play games, watch movies, watch concerts. Going to the beach will be problematic, I suspect. Political rallies, that's going to be the last thing they kill. Yeah. Let's see. Limited people in supply areas. So they won't be packing the Walmart full. You'll get a day every few days, perhaps one day in four, where you can go to Walmart or something that's open. Right? Otherwise, you stay home. That's the way that's going to be. Could be because we still need groceries, meds, uh, somebody to fix the heater, right? Fuel for the vehicle. We still need these. Some businesses will shut down for sure. We're going to see disruptions. We're going to see outages of things that we like to have. Perhaps fresh produce might not be the best thing to offer for sale in a supermarket for a while. Geez, you got somebody walking through, sneezing, coughing, hacking, breathing out virus without knowing he's ill. Do you want to buy that cabbage? I think bananas are pretty safe, but you eat those with your bare hands. You're going to sanitize a banana. Produce is going to be hard. I suggest start a garden so you can have at least some fresh foods. Geez, radishes are quick if you like them sort of things. Spinach, quick. A month and a half, you got spinach. You don't need a huge garden spot to enhance uh, your diet with fresh foods, and this keeps up your nutrients. A lot of stored foods, canned goods, they tend to lose some nutrients over time. Well, people are going to have trouble for sure. One disruption, we're going to have trouble with the job situation. If they're closing down that place where you work because you what, do nails or something, you cut hair, it's hard enough to make ends meet with a job. Are we looking at a recession or a depression? Well, looking back historically, they get back on their feet pretty quickly after the 1918, and you had some roaring 20s right after that Spanish flu outbreak. We will probably see some decline in the numbers if you care about that sort of thing. You just bought bananas today. Well, wipe them down. Wipe them down with some bleach water before you eat them, before you open them up. Okay, we can expect the kids are going to be at home for the next several months. Now, they start off and say no school for 2 weeks, but they will expand that. They will extend that. Let's see, Gara's talking to me. He says the coronavirus can survive 3 hours. Oh, I touched on that. Right? There'll be homeschooling and online schooling. Look, how are they going to do that? Are they going to have like cameras so the teacher can see that you're there? Because if I was a kid and I was doing homeschooling, I'd be mooning the camera. I'm sure of it, man. I'd just be a rotten kid. Let's see. We're going to see some items out of stock, and this will be temporary, okay? This will be a temporary thing. We might have to go without some item that you like to have for several months to a year, right? Some people like avocados. We're going to import foods from foreign, South African, Southern American area. Gosh, I hope they don't kill the coffee. That would kill me. But fresh foods, bread, that's a tough one. That's a staple item. Well, bread is cooked to pretty good temperatures. 400 is typical, as long as it's bagged properly. Most of the bread is done by machines anyway. Man, I do like a fresh loaf of bread, though. But other fresh foods, foods from the delis, sliced cold cuts at the deli. Would you trust it? I mean, you got Hack and Marge back there already operating that slicer. That's the sort of thing we have exposed food in a non-machine mechanized area. That's people are handling that. I would suspect the deli to go down for a while. Here's your Oscar Mayer in a preformed package. But hair, nail, tanning salons, personal services, where you're in contact with a person, this is probably going to go the way of the dodo for a while. China offered local travel only, with no mass travel, right? No buses, no subways, no trolleys, no airliners, no boats, unless it's the only way to get there. And you had to have a pass to get in or out of your apartment complex. Yeah, these are pretty strict, pretty tight controls. But we'll have to go without some things. So this means your kids are going to go without some things as well. What are they going to do for fun? Shut in the house or the backyard for weeks and months. What if they outside the backyard getting some fresh air and they kick the ball over the fence? Let the ball go. You no longer have a ball. Okay, so there is some prudent action we should take. Really, I've talked about this before. You got a bunch of preppers out there. This is an entire movement, and they'll have safe places, campgrounds, bunkers, even. Look, you got a safe place? It's a good time for it, man. Get there and do your thing. For the rest of us, well, we should get some supplies, right? Focus on the things you need most: food, water, HBA. Have you got public water? I see people buying barrels, shopping carts loaded up with bottled water. Look, the water system in your town is still going to work. That's going to be a critical element. They're going to keep those working. Uh, but it might make some sense to have some food in the house. If you're stuck in quarantine for a while, I think 2 weeks would be a minimum to have in the house. And you can buy pretty cheap on an Easy if you have TV dinners and uh, Chef Boyardee stuff and maybe some Stouffer's meatloaf, that sort of thing. You can get by okay. Frozen pork chops, geez, some noodles. This works real easy. A couple of weeks is not too bad, and there's some inexpensive food that will last a good while. But a lot of people don't have $500 to put on groceries for a couple of weeks for a family of 6. These are the hardships we're going to see. So we're going to have to find a way to pull together and solve all our troubles, not just our own. And how long are we in this? That 1918 flu went on for over 9 months. But people still worked. That's what I've got for you today, guys. That's my spiel. Let's see. Here's a face. Yeah, that's what I've got today. It'll be tough. It'll suck. Some people will die. But if we all understand why we need to stay home, why we need to employ respirators and dust masks and self-isolate, to keep the numbers down, to keep the spread to a minimum so that we don't overwhelm the hospitals. Because if we do, we drive up that death rate. And we want to keep the growth. Ideally, everybody stays home, everybody, for the next 2 weeks, no exceptions. That could really do a lot to knocking this down. We have introduced homeschool here, homework for those on our website. Very good. Makes you wonder why you're paying so much in school taxes when you could just leave them home. Okay. My daughter has school for this week, then closing after this week. I think it should be now. Yeah. They're going to stay down. Because in 2 weeks, looking at the numbers, we're going to have 10 times as many cases. 2 more weeks, again, 10 times as many cases. We're barely starting to scratch the surface of the number of infections that are potential. But you figure the next couple of weeks are going to be the easy couple of weeks. And then it gets tougher and tougher, and more people are going to get sick. We're going to start to see and know people who have taken ill. And most of us are going to be okay with it. We'll be, getting better. City's morgue will not be enough for the dead humans. City will have to drop off places for the dead. Bring out your dad. Yeah, bring out your dad. Yeah, how does that work? You're going to be on the squad going around to pick up the dead. This has happened with every pandemic in history. They're doing it in China now, picking up the dead in their homes. Not everybody wants to go to the doctor, wants to go to the hospital, knowing they're terminally ill in order to die next to some guy who drools. A lot of people would be, if they know it's coming, let me stay home and die with my family at my side. We can expect that, especially as older people with respiratory problems pre-existing, maybe some immunodeficiency issues. They may choose to just skip the hospital because they're already overwhelmed. Geez, if we got 1 or 2 million cases, nationwide, most of the hospitals are going to be full. Where would you rather go? In the hallway of the osteoporosis ward, knowing nobody because your family isn't going to be visiting you at the hospital? Or, geez, you're 74 years old, you've been married for 53 years, and she's right here. You're going to stick with her. Yep. Thanks, Ken. You told me a lot I didn't know. There's a couple more videos I put up. You might check that out. Usually it has a farm theme, independence. It's not a bad time to grow a garden. Geez, you can have fresh food, fresh vitamins, fresh amino acids, fresh nutrients. Whereas you may have trouble, by the time these things start to come ripe, you may have some issues getting them from the store, from the local market. It's not a bad time to get things tightened up, right? Do you really have to have those hockey tickets for the season? Because there might not be any hockey for the season. Same thing with other plans. A lot of folks plan vacations for weeks or months in advance. You're really going to go on a cruise in June? Maybe you can get that, cash back or something. What sorts of things would you like to have in the home if you had to be there for a couple of weeks? Even if it was just a mild case, you're sick, kind of, you probably still get around for most of the time. A better chair, clean towels. What do you like? Books. A lot of people in this group go through coin rolls. They search penny rolls for varieties of coins and valuable coins. It wouldn't be too bad to stock up on a couple of $100 worth of pennies. That'll get you by for several months. Even if you spend all day every day. Believe me, you'll stop and take a break now and again. Believe me. You start to get kind of funny if you look at pennies for too long. Well, we're going to see more things coming down the road. We can't predict everything. Some of these ideas that are going to be thrown at us are going to be kind of harsh. Some of them we aren't going to want to go along with easily. If they tell you, sorry, you can't go visit your grandmother across the river because it's another jurisdiction, well, maybe it'd be a good idea to get one of those phones where you can talk to her live, or a laptop, in fact, so you can see her head real big and at least, talk live and get her trained up so that dude, I barely know how my phone works. For 3 months, I got this cell phone. I could not call out with it. They just confirmed 3 cases on the island. Jeez, and now Guam has it. That's a brand new one. I've got a lot of rolls to go through. We're not talking toilet paper rolls, penny rolls. There's a neat thing. Gosh, if you got 6 months, 9 months, or a year to dedicate to learning what these things are, how to identify them properly, you come out the other side with a valuable skill. What the fuck happened to these pennies? I'm binge watching your old stuff. We'll get back to it. We'll get the big show tonight. I've been kind of distracted with things. I've got about 2 more issues I have to get gnarled up so that I have my situation as good as it can be. Because, look, it's not the time to panic because that doesn't solve anything. But it's not the time to be complacent either. Really, take directed action with purpose to get a result and keep you in a more advantageous position, whatever that position is. Maybe now is the time to buy that house, or build that shed, or put up the gate, or a fence along the back, or fix those leaking windows. We'll just take the next 9 months off and tighten up. That's what we're going to do. We're going to tighten everything up. We're going to have social issues come out of this. You go shopping in a couple of months, you don't want to get near this guy over there. You're walking down the street and here comes somebody walking towards you. You want to cross the street or turn around or get off the sidewalk. Look, other people are not the enemy. We go through it. Yeah, listen says, stay the fuck home. Watch this. Let me get this one here. Okay, let me show that one. All right, this is a great site. I went over this a couple of days ago. Here's home. I need the screen. Yep. Okay, I need the top. And up here at the top, let's look at it. Let's see. Here's the screen. There, right up here. Can we see this? There. Stay the fuck home. .com. Here it is. That's not too hard to figure out, is it? Stay the fuck home. It's a movement to stop the COVID-19 pandemic. And we went over this 3 days ago when the number of infected cases was half of what it is today. Don't panic. Be alert. Wash your hands often and well, right? And why is it important? This is far more contagious and far more deadly than the flu. And hopefully I explained to you the nature of this geometric doubling, right? The nature of exponential growth, where the time remains the same, but the growth increases and can double over and over in the same time. We have to reduce this doubling time to 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, and we don't have time to wait. What are we, March 14 now? In 2 weeks, if we don't change this, and it took a couple of weeks for China to get their numbers to slow down, and they were shutting down entire cities, locking them down. Nobody leaves their home from now on. It took a couple of weeks at least for that to start to take effect, and they started it when they had 10,000 cases. So that was another thing I wanted to show. Let's see, where's the button? Yeah, right about here. Right, around 10,000 cases is when we start to see more strict measures, more severe measures. Italy just went to what, 14,000? At about 12,000, Italy shut down the whole darn nation, shut it down. And that seems right in here is where we're going to hit that. And that'll be, let's see, if we are here today on the 15th, 3 days, 6 days, between 3 and 6 days from now, we might start to see entire cities shut down. How about New York City? How about Kings County, Washington? Yeah. And if we don't see it then, surely a couple, 3 more days after that, they'll be taking these drastic steps, because drastic problems call for drastic steps to stop it. Let's see, where's my button? There's one button. There's that button. Now we can find the chat, and we're good. I can't, you're out of rolls. Man, I'm sorry to hear it. Well, look, if you're out of rolls, you can always go over to eBay and just browse those. It's okay, Ken, on a phone, as long as you know what to look for when hunting. Yeah, look for anything out of place, out of the ordinary. When you look at it and say, that one doesn't look like this one. Huh, that's funny. When you say, that's funny, that should be the flag that says you want to hold on to that or check it out further or investigate it further. Working a flight and was trying to catch the end. That's all right. You can watch it again. That's okay. Look, I'm going to take off. It's time me for, I was going to eat a little. I had a few hours of sleep there while Big T was doing his thing. Good Lord, that was history in the making. Yep. But I want to thank you guys for stopping in and listening to me rant. Hey, feel free to share this with other people. If I made enough sense that maybe I convince you to, to really improve your situation and get ready in a reasonable manner, share the word. Okay, I'm out of here, guys.